If I told you that somebody who was sex trafficking children was given special treatment, you would probably look at me and say, Andre, you're insane. You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, that's exactly what's happening. Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's former accomplice with literally sex trafficking and raping children, has been given special treatment because most recently she was in a prison in Florida and then was secretly and quietly relocated to a prison camp in Texas. And what is wacky and wild about this is that the prisoners in Texas do not even want her there, and they're complaining about her. Even prisoners do not want this person. And I just have to talk about it because, again, this is just even more injustice to the victims of this horrible and horrifying child sex trafficking ring run by Epstein and Maxwell. Some of the victims have spoken up, and they have said that this is a horrible cover-up. Why is a child predator and a child sex trafficker getting special treatment and being moved to a prison camp in Texas that is not meant for the charges that Maxwell have been charged with? For example, some of the people who are at this new prison in Texas where Maxwell is, they are there for things like theft. Why? That's not even the same thing. It's not even on the same level. And what appears to be happening here leading up to all this, at least from what I have concluded, is that for years now, we have been reading that Ghislaine Maxwell and her lawyers feel that she's subject to horrible conditions in the prison in Florida, and she's been hoping that because she knows Donald Trump, now that he's the president, maybe he can help her out. And apparently, from what I've been reading, Maxwell has been answering any and every question in a slew of questioning, which will hopefully work out for justice to the victims. But it does appear that in answering all these questions, now Ghislaine Maxwell has been getting special treatment, quietly being relocated, and I love how everybody knows about it. It's the talk of the town, and even the prisoners do not want her there, which I will just solidify my statement and opinion that that is completely unacceptable. It appears the prison camp in Texas is a minimum security prison, and someone who was literally not just an accomplice, but literally raping children and sex trafficking, they should be in the worst condition, the worst federal maximum security prison of all time. There is no question about that. What I do think, unfortunately, what is happening here is she may have just spilled the beans about everything. Regardless, though, I did just want to talk about this, and there are some articles here that have a little bit more information. Yeah, that's right. Ghislaine Maxwell not welcome in Texas club-fed prison camp, says inmate. Human trafficking is a violent crime. Yes, it is. So Maxwell's transferred to a minimum security prison in Texas, commonly referred to as club-fed, has upset her fellow inmates who believe she shouldn't be there given the nature of her crimes. And actually, holy cow, what's crazy about this is the move required the Bureau to waive its policy that convicted sex offenders must be held at least at a low-level prison. Maxwell received a waiver to facilitate the move, according to MSNBC reporter Ken, which gave her access to a less restrictive prison environment than the one in Tallahassee. Okay, holy crap, I have to add this here before I continue talking anymore. After diving into the details a little bit more, it seems that the Bureau of Prisons waived its policy that convicted sex offenders must be held at least at a low-level prison, which is absolutely absurd. They are literally breaking the rules and giving special treatment to someone who was raping children and trafficking them. So yeah, she was quietly transferred this week from a stricter low-security prison in Tallahassee, Florida to a prison camp 100 miles outside Houston, Texas. The new prison mainly houses inmates convicted of white-collar crimes and minor offenses, and they are said to be angry about her presence. She's serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking underage girls for Epstein. A prisoner at the federal prison camp, Brian, told the Telegraph that she was disgusted by Maxwell's transfer, a feeling shared by many fellow inmates. Julie Howell, 44, who was serving a 1-year sentence for theft, told the outlet that every inmate I've heard from is upset she's here. This facility is supposed to house non-violent offenders. Human trafficking is a violent crime. When Maxwell arrived at the facility, prisoners were reportedly locked down and had the blinds closed in an apparent attempt to hide her from view. Inmates at minimum security institutions, also known as FPCs, enjoy a low prison guard-to-inmate ratio and minimal or no perimeter fencing. FPC Brian has a sports field, gym, arts, and craft activities, a theater program, and a program that allows inmates to play with puppies and train them to become service animals. What? So we have sex offenders? What? Training animals to become service animals. That's wild. It is the same prison where Elizabeth Holmes, founder of Theranos, the fraudulent blood testing company, is serving an 11-year sentence. In recent weeks, President Trump has faced mounting pressure from Democrats and supporters to release all information related to Epstein, as he had promised during the campaign. Maxwell's transfer occurred a week after she was interviewed by Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, fueling intense speculation that the Trump administration struck a deal with her. During a 9-hour interview, Maxwell was reportedly questioned about dozens of billionaires, politicians, and other notable figures connected to the late sex offender. Her lawyers state she is willing to testify before Congress in exchange for a presidential pardon or a commutation of her 20-year sentence, a possibility Trump has not ruled out, repeatedly asserting that he has the power to do so. Her fellow inmates at FPC Bryan are worried about their safety given the widespread threats against Maxwell and the lack of tight security on the prison grounds. Howell said, "We have heard that there are threats against her life and many of us are worried about our own safety because she's here. She was moved in secret after being bombarded with death threats from rapists who accused her of being a snitch." Holy cow, I did not know that that was the reason why she was moved. The move, which has been condemned by victims, came after the disgraced socialite spent 2 days speaking to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. As soon as Ghislaine spoke to the government, she was considered a snitch by other inmates at Tallahassee. There were very real and very credible threats on her life. The prison had dangerous inmates serving time for serious crimes like rape and murder. That is exactly what Maxwell did. She should be with these dangerous criminals because she is a dangerous criminal. I don't get it. I don't get it. Tallahassee has not had a permanent governor in some time and is chronically understaffed. She has faced death threats, which she deserves, but after meeting with her government, she was bombarded with them. She had a target on her back. There were real fears inside Tallahassee that they could not guarantee her safety, which is why she was moved. Then why was it so quiet? Why was it so quiet and under wraps? Well, the only thing I can assume here is that Maxwell has some serious information in details, probably extremely incriminating evidence. And whatever the hell happened with Epstein, they probably want to make sure that does not happen with her. The fact that they had Epstein at a location where the cameras were so sketchy and were constantly breaking, and there were issues with schedules and the security guards and understaffing, and the fact that that facility that Epstein was at was like half operational. They were probably trying very hard to make sure that they don't slip up the way that they did with Epstein. Howell, a married mother of 4 and former professor, said her daughter was repeatedly trafficked from the age of 17, leading to her being beaten, choked, and eventually shot, as well as becoming pregnant, resulting in her mother adopting the child. Oh my god. That is literally horrible. Holy, wow. The traffickers were apprehended by the FBI and local law enforcement with Howell's assistance and are now serving federal prison sentences of over 20 years. Howell, who was convicted of stealing $1 million from her former employer, Tarleton State University, to fund her gambling addiction, said, "I don't blame anyone else for the actions that brought me to FPC Bryan, but I can definitely say that the circumstances that surrounded my daughter being shot were what sparked my spiral and addiction to gambling to escape my reality. Having Miss Maxwell here triggered all those feelings." Howell also warned that Maxwell could be a flight risk, given how she evaded the authorities for months before her arrest. "This is a camp you can literally walk out of. I don't care how many people she turns in, it doesn't take away from her action. As a mother of a sex trafficking victim, I'm absolutely disgusted she's in this facility. Regardless of her reasoning, I don't think she belongs here." Wow. And then there was another article that I read. 2 women who said they were sexually abused by Epstein and Maxwell, and the family of another accuser who recently took her own life, condemned the surprise prison transfer. "It's with horror and outrage that we object to the preferential treatment convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell has received," Annie Ann Maria Farmer and the family of Virginia said in a statement. "Without any notification to the Maxwell victims, the government overnight has moved Maxwell to a minimum security luxury prison in Texas," the victims said. "She is a sexual predator who physically assaulted minor children on multiple occasions, and she should never be shown any leniency. This move smacks of a cover-up. The victims deserve better," they said. Then Tim Hogan, a senior Democratic National Committee advisor, denounced what he alleged was a government cover-up in real time. Donald Trump's FBI, run by loyalist Kash Patel, redacted Trump's name from the Epstein files, which have still not been released, Hogan said. While Trump and his administration try to cover up the heinous crimes included in those files, they're simultaneously doing favors for convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, Hogan said. There are some wacky details here about the prison camp that Maxwell was sent to. They can be sanctioned if they break a number of rules, including not keeping their cells clean. For each meal, prisoners are allotted 1 hour with the menu compiled by the Federal Bureau of Prisons, including macaroni, tacos, hot dogs, and hamburgers. Anyways, I have been yapping about this for like 16, maybe 20 minutes now. Point being, it is disappointing, and I can see it is absolutely valid how these victims are outraged that they were not notified. It is disappointing to see. It does unfortunately seem that there is an angle being played here. Maxwell provides as much information as possible, and they ensure her safety to make sure that the people responsible for these horrible crimes are served justice. So anyways, I am yapping a lot about this because I think it should be talked about. There should be more and more pressure on the government and these federal agencies to make sure that the public has all of the information, the client list is released, and we tear down this silly and ridiculous cover-up. Because unfortunately, that seems to be what's happening here.